more than about 250 words a minute. I read less than most of you in this room. I know that to be a case. And I get discouraged when I go into that bookstore and look at all that stuff that I will leave unread when I die. But the question he poses for us is this: wherever you are, whoever you are you diligent or are you slothful? Are you casual about your life or are you intense about living? Here I can't help but quote my friend Edwards' resolve to live with all my might while I live. He wrote, "Some pastors and preachers are lazy and no good. They do not pray. They do not read. They don't search the Scriptures. The call is watch, study, attend to reading. In truth, you cannot read too much in the Scriptures. And what you read, you cannot read too carefully. And what you read carefully, you cannot understand too well. And what you understand well, you cannot teach too well. And what you teach well, you cannot live too well. The devil, the world, and our flesh are raging and raving against us. Therefore, dear sirs and brothers, pastors, preachers, pray, read, study, be diligent. This evil, shameful time is not the season for being lazy or sleeping and snoring." He said, household sweat is great sweat. Political sweat is greater sweat. Church sweat is the greatest sweat. That's right. And then, of course, to bring in the balance, as George Verwer says. Let's be balanced here. Luther, here's what he says about balance. 1532, "A person should work in such a way that he remains well and does not injure his body. We should not break our heads at work and injure our bodies. I myself used to do such things. And I have racked my brains because I still have not overcome the bad habit of overworking, nor shall I ever overcome it as long as I live." Now, I know that a psychologist, a counselor would rebuke me at the end of this because of how many burned out and broken pastors they deal with. However, I want to read the Apostle Paul to you because Luther loved his dear apostle who wrote 1 Corinthians 15:10. "His grace toward me was not in vain, but I worked harder than any of them." That's the true apostles. How about his relationship to the false apostles? He wrote 2 Corinthians 11:23, "Are they servants of Christ? I speak as if insane. I am more so, in far more labors, far more imprisonments, beaten, times without number, often in danger of death." So I don't know whether the Apostle Paul at the end of his life would say, I shall never overcome the habit of overwork. But there's enough as you look at the Apostle Paul to say, let's not be lazy. Let's work hard. Number 5. Temptation and affliction are the hermeneutical touchstones of his study. Temptation and affliction are the hermeneutical touchstones of his study. Here's the key text. He said, now some of you remember this from seminary days, that there were 3 ways to become a theologian. He gets this from Psalm 119. Oratio, meditatio, tentatio. Prayer, meditation, and, in German, Anfechtung. Trials, suffering. The hermeneutical key to the Bible is affliction. Biblical basis for that? Psalm 119, 67 and 71. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I keep thy word. Here's the key verse, verse 71. It is good for me that I was afflicted, that I may learn thy statutes. Is that not amazing? Where do you see that in any hermeneutical textbook? You've got to go back 300 years, 400 years to read a hermeneutic that says the touchstone of my hermeneutic is pain. He wrote, I want you to know how to study theology in the right way. I have practiced this method myself. Here you will find these 3 rules. They teach you not only to know, that the afflictions teach you not only to know and to understand, but also to experience how right, how true, how sweet, how lovely, how mighty, how comforting God's Word is. It is wisdom supreme. Listen to this. For I myself owe my papists many thanks for so beating, pressing, frightening me through the devil's raging that they have turned me into a fairly good theologian, driving me to the goal I never would have reached. He's not playing games there. He was a marked man, the ban of Emperor Charles. Charles said, I have decided to mobilize everything against Luther. This is the emperor of the Roman Empire, Charles V. I have decided to mobilize everything against Luther. My kingdoms, my dominions, my friends, my body, my blood, my soul. You can kill him. Frederick of Saxony was the only reason he lived. There was some family dynamics going on here. That he had a little space. He had a little space. And he could only go under armed guard to all these little places where he would go. Relentless slander. He said, if the devil can do nothing against the teachings, he attacks the person, lying, slander, cursing, ranting at him, just as the papists Beelzebub did to me when he could not subdue my gospel. He wrote that I was possessed by the devil and was a changeling, and my beloved mother a whore and bath attendant. The rumor that was spread systematically was that his mother had had sex with the devil and that Martin Luther was half demon, which was not mythology in those days. That was a real possibility. Physically, kidney stones, headaches, buzzing in his ears, infections, and this incapacitating piles. I nearly gave up the ghost, he said, and now bathed in blood can find no peace. What took 4 days to heal immediately tears open again. Emotionally, spiritually, listen to this kind of torment. For more than a week I have been thrown back and forth in death and hell. My whole body feels beaten. My limbs are still trembling. I almost lost Christ completely, driven about in the waves and storms of despair and blasphemy against God. But because of the intercession of the faithful, God began to take mercy on me and tore my soul from the depths of hell. He looked very invulnerable on the outside. You read his biography, you think, well, this man was a giant. But here he is in Wartburg, where he supposedly was flat out translating the New Testament in 10 months. And this is what he wrote to Melanchthon. I sit here at ease, hardened and unfeeling, alas, praying little, grieving little for the church of God, burning rather in the fierce fires of my untamed flesh. It comes to this. I should be a fire in the spirit. In reality, I am a fire in the flesh with lust, laziness, idleness, sleepiness. It is perhaps because you have all ceased praying for me that God has turned away from me. For the last 8 days I have written nothing, nor prayed, nor studied, partly from self-indulgence, partly from another vexatious handicap. That's his piles he's talking about. I really cannot stand it any longer. Pray for me, I beg you, for in my seclusion here I am submerged in sins. My own testimony here in this regard would be that am tempted